Last minute in, episode 66. We're back. As you can tell, there's just sadness. Sadness.
Awkward. Why is it sadness?
Because the Jets aren't doing well anymore.
Yeah,
They've lost 3 of their last 4 games.
Mm-hmm. Against teams that they...
To 2 very, very not good teams.
2.
Well, Ottawa's okay.
I was going to be like, one okay team. Yeah. They did have a 4th line power play the other night. Sending a message from coach.
Who, the Jets?
Yeah.
I saw that.
They put out the 4th line against the Flyers because
the
top line wasn't getting it done.
Well, they've had some issues scoring lately, which was not an issue earlier in the season. And everything's hunky-dory when nothing's going wrong, and you're able to score. But now that you're not, wheels are kind of falling off. And this is where leadership is huge. And this is, now it seems more than ever, the Jets penalties are coming back to bite them. But we're not just going to talk about Jets today. We got a few topics to talk about. So we got to talk about Jets. We got to talk Hockey Hall of Fame inductees yesterday. I know that we touched on it earlier when they were announced, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. The other thing I also want to talk about is the Flint Firebirds situation. As Cam looks at me.
It's like a weird... Yeah.
And whatever else Cam has prepared for us.
As in Flint, Michigan?
As in Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan Mega
And they didn't go with the Tropics. They did not go with the Tropics.
They decided the Firebirds were a better team name than the Tropics, which I'm quite disappointed about.
Get the funk out of my face.
How many people... I would go out of my way to find a Flint Tropics merchandise. Maybe not a jersey, but for sure a shirt and a hat.
Speaking of merchandise, did you guys see Saskatoon Blades' Star Wars jerseys?
I did.
Those look awesome.
Those are sweet.
I'll try to get a hold of it and tweet it.
Amazing. They look awesome. Just awesome. And I think there was another coaching announcement for the World Cup of Hockey. And, Babcock didn't get announced last week.
Mike Dad Babcock.
Yeah, that Dad Babcock.
Babcock?
We'll talk about that. And I know it doesn't pertain necessarily to hockey, but there's one more thing that I want to talk about a nation that cheats.
Okay. You know what we have to do, too? And I'm putting stars beside the things that you say.
Yeah.
I've noticed the last couple of podcasts where you tease what we're going to talk about, we only talk about half of it.
I know.
A very bad follow-up.
Here's how it works. It's all about the long tease. I'll tell you this is what we're going to talk about, and then never talk about it. And you're sitting there like,
what the fuck, dude?
And it reminds me of when I was in college. And my teacher would be like, yeah, don't worry, we'll touch on that more later in the year. And I go back to my notes at the start of the year. I'm like, we never fucking talked about that.
Petridge Farm remembers when you said you were going to... Rocking back and forth.
Petridge Farms remembers.
Cold outside today. Cold outside yesterday.
Okay, so last time we did a podcast was last Tuesday?
Wednesday.
Yeah? Is that right, Greg?
What was last Tuesday? Why didn't we do it on Tuesday? Oh, I know why.
Because you wanted to be here.
I was in a gala on last Tuesday.
Oh, big shot.
Sounds fancy.
I was in a gala, too, of candy. I ate a lot of
There's in a gala of my basement.
Yeah.
I
feel like that's a weird
I
gala.
know I told Dan this before you got here, but I'm joining society. My dad sent me out today to go buy a 50-inch flat-screen LED smart TV. So we're finally going to have a TV in our basement for the first time in 4 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you're going to upgrade from that tube.
No, from nothing.
So you can watch The Ring on Blu-ray beside your well.
We could.
This year.
With a sound bar. We got to find one. If you guys know of any good sound bars, not just you guys, but people listening.
Everyone listening.
Let me know,
Those who
please.
came for Hockey Talk will get there.
Never.
We'll talk about it later.
Because I'm moving back.
Yeah.
I moved my TV back today, and I put it down in
You
my basement.
one of your 2 TVs?
One of my 2. Well, the other one's a monitor. So now I have now in my room.
No way.
Now in my room, I have a 21-inch monitor and a 19-inch TV for gaming. I look like if I bring a girl in my room, because spoiler alert, I'm single. Shocking, I know.
Lady.
If I bring a girl in my room, I just feel like that's not something that's gonna really be like.
Greg,
you have two TVs. Yeah, they're both for video games.
Make it.
I have 4 systems laid out. I have my Xbox One, PS4, Xbox 360 and PS3 all laid out at TVs on top of them, all the
Cords
games.
everywhere.
Oh, man, if
Sounds
house
phenomenal.
inspection came in, they would be like, this is a fire hazard. This is a direct
Is
fire
your
hazard.
window
All this
even big enough to be
No!
considered? I'm pretty sure it's got to be that big.
Yeah, oh, it does. And if anyone knows the size of me, they know that I can't fit out the window that's in my room. Because it's like maybe 2 by...
There's enough to save
2 feet by
puppy.
4 feet.
No, there's enough to like throw your gaming systems up. Be like, no, save your house. Save this house.
But no, I brought my 43-inch smart TV that I bought
Yep.
when I moved out to Kenora. So
Yep.
now I'm moving back. I brought it back home, put it in my basement. I could have 3 fucking TVs in my room.
I was gonna
sweet would that
say,
be?
set up the big boy.
Oh, no.
But set it up facing the other way. So then, if you have the ladies over, you can Netflix and chill from 2 feet away and go blind.
But
Like when
we
she-
can Netflix, chill, and Skype
We
with
are
that
going
big
to Netflix,
TV.
chill, and Skype. You know, my sister, she tried listening in, and she was like, yeah, I was listening to your podcast. I didn't know what Netflix and chill is, so I had to Google it.
Oh my god!
I know. Wait, hold on. And then she's like, I still don't know what it is. And I'm like, did you tune out? Because we said it in the same sentence. Exactly what it is. She's like, well, I had it. It was on in the background. I'm like, you didn't even listen. You're a liar. She's like, I listened. No, you didn't.
But like I set it up, I'm like, this is the biggest TV I've had down here. Like our biggest one before that was 26 inches.
Yeah.
And it was...
It doesn't get the job done when 43 comes to town.
No, it just doesn't. And it was funny because until I broke a previous TV that was 32 inches, that was the biggest TV in our house.
You
was
broke
the one
a
in my
32
TV.
inch?
Yeah, playing
Oh,
video
was it
games.
LED?
It was LCD.
You broke a TV
Oh.
playing video games.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Threw my controller at it. Not on purpose, kind of, not
There's
really.
the truth.
I've broken 2 iPhones from throwing them on totally on purpose. Like the moment, like the half millisecond, it left my finger. I was like, "Well, that was a stupid one," and I just watched it go, smash.
You throw it, then you go, shit.
Oh, I'm pissed.
I was actually there when Cam broke his 3G.
I've broken 3 iPhones. Yeah, the 3G
And he's like jumping up and down, and the phone just falls
It
out
was-
right onto the tile floor, and you're like, it's
It
done
was that
for.
song. I
done.
built a house across the blue lake.
Swedish House Mafia.
Yeah, that
That's
one.
what it
And I was
yeah.
getting down, and our friend has like rock. He literally just carved out the side of a rock and put it on his
He
floor.
took the Canadian shield and put it on his floor.
Yeah, and it was, I don't know why, but zip-up hoodies like have the smallest pockets, and I
They
put
have
the
the
iPhone
most-
in, and it was kicking out like this, and I jumped because I was getting down, and then it just fell. And the moment it hit, it was like, and I was like, never made that sound before. And then I looked and saw like 1,000 of me, just little
Yeah.
pieces of me.
And then runs for the Scotch tape to put it on his phone.
No, that was me.
I
Yeah.
know, that's what you did.
But it wasn't clear tape. It was like the
Yeah.
the faded. So I had to text for like a month with like putting the phone like right up to my nose, being like, "Is that an L or a U? What is?" Yeah, whatever.
Who am I even talking to right
Yeah,
now?
like who,
No.
mom? Ah, that.
Okay,
picture
we
should've
gotta
been
get
you.
to hockey.
Let's do it.
Later. We'll get to it.
Now!
All right.
I'm sick of your bullshit, Dan.
Hey,
You go
did I
with
do?
the others and sit in the corner. You find Stefan. You go on a quest.
We gotta get that guy. We gotta find him.
We gotta chain him.
Have we heard any? Oh, did we check? Did you guys check pop
Nothing.
tweets or anything?
Nothing.
I'll check YouTube.
Oh yeah, you do
check
that.
YouTube money.
Jets played 4 games since last podcast.
2
One
games
Three.
since last podcast.
would have been
3
3.
games.
Well,
Three,
did we
including
talk
tonight.
about the Toronto game?
Yeah.
We talked about the
Briefly.
Minko game. Yeah.
The Minko?
Not really.
Not really.
Okay, you're
exactly.
right. Okay.
So 4 games.
My bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Watch your tone when you're talking. to me.
I'll try.
Shut your
I'm
mouth.
getting
Nick.
out of line since you've been on the phone. I could just lay back and let her
Yeah,
loose.
I know.
Now you're here again.
The Jets beat Toronto. Not a shocker. Toronto's a pretty bad team.
Mhm.
There's really nothing else to say. They beat a team they should beat. And then the next night they go up against Ottawa and lose to a team that
They definitely should have beat. Probably.
probably should be, but on a back-to-back, especially when it was a back-to-back prior to that,
Keep in mind, they did
tough.
lose in a skills competition.
It's a
How do you
skills
mean?
competition.
Shootout.
oh yeah.
But they let it get to shootout. You have a 3-on-3. How do you not
And
score?
gets me to a point I want to
They
touch
were
on.
down 2-0, though, and they did force overtime.
Okay, well.
And in the 3-on-3, they had about 50 bajillion chances to win it, and they
Now-
couldn't. So
Here's the thing with the Jets, and we know this dating back to last year, is that if they're down going in the second period, they don't win games. And I really thought this was the game that's going to change the tide on that and be like, now this is the new team, but unfortunately it's not yet.
We've seen it though. Like
They did force
of it.
overtime though. They didn't even.
Yeah,
do that
well,
they got
exactly.
the point. They got the point.
That's
to
huge.
start.
Which gets me to a point I want to talk about just after we do the Jets recap about 3-on-3 overtime. And I'm sure we've talked about it before, but I want to touch on it again. Then the Jets played Philadelphia, Cam's favorite team, on Saturday. And how did it go, Cam?
The Flyers won 3-0.
The
Michael
first game
Neuwirth
all year.
stood on his head.
First game
all year.
the Jets were shut out this season. Go ahead, Cam.
Oh, I was just gonna say it wasn't that Neuwirth played great. The Jets didn't get a lot of quality chances. Like the Flyers the Jets weren't driving the middle for some reason against the Flyers, and I don't understand why they weren't doing that. Because the Flyers aren't really the strongest team to begin with. They are second in the league in hits right now, but
Flyers look like they played a very good game.
Yeah, no, they
Overall.
played really good, but it also helps the Flyers' fact that the Jets took 6 penalties. No, 5 penalties, and the Flyers went 2 for 5 on the power play. But of those penalty kills that the Jets had to kill off, or power plays that they had to kill off, there was 2 of them where the Flyers kept it in their zone the whole time, like in the Jet zone, and those guys they didn't take a break off their shift, which I would say it's kind of a knock on Flyers for not being able to take advantage, but also a plus on the Jets for the fact that one of them was Lowry, and who's Lowry paired up with on the penalty kill? Lowry. I don't know. Either way, that Lowry PK unit was...
Might be stacked.
They were dead tired, but they held them. They didn't let them score. They were holding them to the outside, so I think it was all right. But lots of... obviously, we already know this. Lots of undisciplined penalties. Yep. There's a few calls that I wouldn't have called. And then because that happened, they had to give we know they don't do this apparently. But there was a few gimme calls both ways. It was like, oh, that was a bad call earlier. I guess I have to call this one. Then they called that one, and you're just like,
did you have to call that one?
Why'd you have to call that? Because now you have to call Flyers for that.
Yeah.
And then, I'm like, when I saw, who was it? The Voracek one. I probably wouldn't have called where Voracek got tripped, where he was skating backwards, and I believe it was Ladd just, kind of skated by him and coincidentally, tapped him, kind of on the lower back. And then it did look like Voracek kind of just threw himself, and they called it. And because they called that one, I knew later on in the game, which they did end up calling, I think, they had to call another, kind of questionable tripping. I thought. It just...
There's one the only thing I can think of off the top of my head is Wheeler got a penalty for boarding, and the guy was about 10 feet away from the boards. He hit him...
where his feet came out.
He hit him in the numbers very lightly, and the guy fell to his knees and slid towards the boards. But then they gave him a boarding penalty, and I was like, "That's not a penalty." And then 5 minutes later, they called pretty much the exact same penalty against Philly, as a makeup call. And I'm like, "Well,
yeah, if you're gonna do that, don't call it at all. Just leave it.
Don't create power plays. Just don't call the initial one.
Yeah.
Make it."
Some of the best hockey, and I think we can all agree, is playoff hockey, where they seem to put the whistles away. And maybe this is a tactic they have to employ in the regular season, is not calling every little thing and letting some more things go, because it's proven that teams that have been in the playoffs know what they can get away with, and teams that aren't in the playoffs have no clue, right? What you can get away with, what gets called. So maybe employing a little bit less of a...
Standard?
Yeah, exactly. Will increase... or decrease the amount of penalties and increase teams being prepared
and the
for
flow of the game.
Exactly.
Because there was a few times where it was just for about a 15-minute stretch in the second where it was it was just stop, go.
It does kill the momentum, for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, but apart from that, it was a solid game. It was a 2-0 game. They scored an empty netter.
I thought Philly played great.
They were shooting for the fences.
I only caught about the last half of the game, but I thought they frustrated the Jets, quite frankly. It's weird because they did what the Jets did a couple years ago when the Jets were and this is just my opinion, but I'd say the Jets are a more skilled team than Philly, and the Flyers had to combat that by just frustrating the Jets.
Yeah,
and they did, and that's what the Jets were doing last year and the year before. They weren't as talented as some of the other teams, but they just frustrate them.
Oh yeah, the Flyers' bottom
Philly,
six is not anything to be proud of.
So
they're pretty awful.
Yeah,
and no, that's
I didn't
exactly
think the Jets necessarily played a bad game. I thought Philly played a very good game.
Yeah, well, and it helps when your goalie's stopping everything. Ehlers had, I don't know if it was in the second, maybe the third. Ehlers had the greatest chance of the game, I thought, even apart from the goals that went in for Philly. He just I don't know who he went around, but he just deked around the 1D, toe dragged it a bit, and then all of a sudden he's like from me to like 5 feet away from Newverth and just ripped it, and Newverth just tracked it the whole way. I thought one more move and it was going in because Newverth isn't the strongest going laterally.
He's got 3 shutouts already this year.
Yeah, that was
That's
his
impressive.
third one.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Definitely showing up.
but-
Then the Minnesota game tonight, because I do kind of want to get going here, as there's lots to talk about. What do you guys think of that game? You saw more than I did. All I saw was turned on the TV, Jets had a power play, and they got scored on.
Well, it was.
I showed up here.
It was
when
1-1 after the first, and the Jets were by far the better team in the first period, and then Minnesota scored 4 goals in the second period.
And the Jets.
They had about 3 breakaways in about the span of 30 seconds, and they scored on one of them. So it was just some I don't know if it blown coverage by the Jets, or they just forgot about the last guy, and just it was weird because they played very, very well in the first. And the second, they just looked scrambly all over the place.
3 goals out of the 4 that I saw were blocker side.
True.
The Vanek goal, the Hollow goal, and the...
Both Vanek goals.
Both Vanek goals and the Hollow goal were all blocker side high. Yep. So, and that was on Pavs, I believe, on all of them.
And Hutchinson is now in.
Yep, and he's letting.
And what is currently the score of the game? 5-1?
5-1.
5-1 after the second period. So you can write that one in the L column.
Yeah, you know what? It's
barring a miracle.
Oh,
however, the Jets have taken 5 penalties once again through 2 periods. So this is.
But they just took 3 of them in the last minute when they were already down 5-1. So.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So in clumps.
So the
power play. No, it says Minnesota power plays 0 for 5.
Minnesota has no power play goals. Yeah.
Yeah, 0 for 5.
Oh, there you go.
Nonetheless,
but they
still
do have a shorty.
Yeah.
Which.
Now we can't blame this all on the team. The penalties this team has, had this season. There's got to be an underlying. Teams play bad games. It's not a reason to panic.
They are top of the league in penalties taken though again.
Oh, for sure.
And I didn't think they were, but they are. They have the most minors again.
Yeah. And that's got to be something that's corrected.
Was
I don't know what it's going to take.
When Maurice was a coach of the Leafs, did they take a lot of penalties? Like, is it a Maurice thing or is it just the player thing?
I think it could be a combination of Maurice wanting them to play a very aggressive style. But it could also be a combination of the guys just taking things that little step too far sometimes. I don't remember.
He does coach an aggressive style of hockey.
Yes.
He does.
And the thing with Maurice when he was in Toronto, it's kind of an arbitrary thing looking at that, because that was right after the lockout where they introduced all these new penalties, so there were a lot more penalties happen. Like, remember back in 2005, 2006, 2007, where teams would average like 8 or 9 power plays a game because there were just so many penalties?
The transition was rough because I remember one of the main penalties that they instituted was you weren't allowed to clear the net as viciously, and the stick work, they called everything.
Face-offs were a huge one as well, where you get interference calls for holding your guy too long at the tie-up at center.
Hand on the puck, delay a game.
Yeah, but that was introduced later on.
Oh, okay.
The biggest thing that they changed was the way they called hooking, because before, hooking used to be a definitive motion to gain, to impede the progress of a player. Now all it has to do is be 90 degrees, lateral with the player. So if you hold it straight out and touch them, they're going to call hooking. That was the new way they're doing it. Now they've eased up on it a bit, but that was what it was when it was introduced.
They but there's always a trend. They always, I find that, they'll come up with a new rule. They'll be like, we're going to crack down on this. 10 years later, it's gone. Remember the big thing was you chip the puck past the defender. The defenseman can't impede you at all. They used to call that so tight after the lockout. And you know what? Right now, you can do whatever you want to the guy after he chips the puck, and they're not going to call it. So they've gone right back to. They've slowly gone right back to, and the game has also slipped back to. They said scoring right now. Yeah. It's barely above where it was in 2004 when they had the lockout.
I want to talk about that in a second.
So the game is slowly slipping back to where it was before.
I do want to touch on that, but the playing around the defenseman, it's changed in the sense that players used to be able to hack / hook the guy, impede his progress. It's not so much impeding now, where it's standing your ground. You're physically allowed your lane to the ice, and that's how defensemen are kind of taking a liberty with it is they're saying this is my lane. If you're trying to come into my lane, that's where they're allowed to touch him. Where that was a gray area when they first introduced it, so they were calling it. So I want to touch on that goal thing in a second. What I want to talk about now is after the Jets played against the Sens, a lot of people were bummed because the game went down to the shootout. Do you guys think it's time, after what we've seen this season, that the league just goes to a 3-on-3 continuous overtime until there's a winner? Because chances are most games won't go past that first period.
I'd bump it to 10 minutes.
I'd totally be due. I'd rather, instead of doing it continuous until it ends, because you could have the long games. But I'm totally with Dan on this one. I'd bump it to 10 and then have the shootout, because it's got to like drastically drop. Like, there's so many chances that you get. Mm-hmm. I get where players, like, the one coming to mind just because we live in Winnipeg and we listen to 1290 would be Dustin Byfuglien wasn't very impressed with how the game ended in a shootout, because he said it's something along the lines of, it's a skill competition and it comes down to, it's for the fans. If you're a real fan, he didn't say this now, this is just like me thinking off the top of my head. If you're a real fan, do you really want your team to lose in a shootout? For me, I don't mind. Like, Flyers are literally statistically the worst team in the shootout. So I know when it goes to shootout, but the shootout brings highlights and things that you're not always going to see. Well, you won't see very often, just because usually players need a guy draped around their hip or something to score goals, and now you don't have that or anything like that. You have guys who can actually set up and do that. But I'd rather see the game end in a shootout, or no, in an overtime than in a shootout. Because shootout, you could have guys like back in the day when it first started, Eric Christensen, who teams literally brought in just to play in the shootout. He wasn't that great, but he was just so good in the shootout.
And the problem with the shootout is it's not indicative of how the game went. It's not.
It's just solely on a player's ability.
A team can hang in there by the skin of their teeth and not even deserve to be in the game and have, a better talent, more talented shootout players, and they could win the game. And I don't think it's indicative of who was a better team in the game.
Well,
granted, 3-on-3 maybe also is not the most indicative, but I think it's more than a shootout, than a solo skills competition.
Just to put it in some perspective, Ottawa has 7 wins this year. 4 of them are in overtime, like regulation or overtime. So 3 shootout wins this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So they just have good
good skill
in the
skill
shootout players. Yeah.
But here's the thing. They're talking about making this year's All-Star game 3-on-3.
Oh, I'm totally okay with that. That'd be amazing.
I totally agree.
It's going to be a 3-on-3 tournament, though.
Yeah.
It's going to be they're going to make teams
4
of 3
teams.
and have a tournament.
Yeah.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah, it'll be a totally new format, which will be actually pretty cool.
Oh, I watch every year anyways, because
have,
I like watching it. But
they could have 8 teams of 3, that's 24 guys, and then that's 4 games in the first round, 2 games in the next round, and then a final.
As long as they keep I love watching the skills comp. It's so awesome.
But players don't like Dustin Byfuglien has come on and said he does not like 3-on-3 overtime. Eric Carlson has come on and said he does not like 3-on-3 overtime.
Goalies have come on and said they don't like it.
Okay, Buff doesn't like 3-on-3. This is personal opinion. Buff probably doesn't like overtime because his endurance isn't as great as the average Joe. Carlson probably doesn't like shootout because he never leaves the ice.
You know what?
3-on-3.
Yeah. You say that, but watching Byfuglien on the ice, some of these other guys on the Jets get bagged way faster than he does.
Oh, of course, but
you would think he'd love it because he can go, because he gets free reign to go. He's go and do whatever the hell he wants.
But if he messes up, or say he goes for a hit or something, it's harder to line guys up.
But there's no hitting in overtime.
Exactly.
It's all possession, and he's got the green light to take the puck and go and score. He doesn't have to play defense. And
there's going to be people who like things and who don't like it, but
it's the way the NHL wants.
It's the way the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, right?
His response was, "It's not hockey."
Oh, it's shinny. It's kind of like pond hockey.
Pretty much. That was that was his rationale why he didn't like it too much.
So what's the answer then? So you have shootout, which he also doesn't like. You have 3-on-3, which he also doesn't like. So then what's the answer? We'll just let games end in a tie after the third period?
Continuous OT, I guess, till someone wins.
But then he doesn't like it anyways.
Yeah. Oh, he will.
Oh, he just doesn't like shootout.
5-on-5.
Oh, no, I don't want 5-on-5 OT. Oh, continuous.
Or I think it's one of those things where when you win the game, you like it. When you lose, you say, "Oh, stupid."
Yeah. Fair enough.
And I
I'm
I
sure
agree.
Buff's gonna score an
3-on-3
OT win
overtime is just a
if he
complete clusterfuck because it's
Yeah.
just whatever. And it's extremely entertaining to watch.
Yeah, and
It's
that's
it's
so much
great.
fun. That Ottawa Jets game, it was just automatic rushes for 5 minutes.
Well,
well,
that's
that's same
exactly
with the
what it
Tampa
is.
Bay game too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
the way that I think it's a great way to finish a game.
Yeah.
It creates excitement. Now, to move on from that into what Dan was talking about earlier, that goals have decreased significantly. Now on Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday, they were talking about increasing the actual net size. Mike Babcock came out and said that the nets are just seriously too small. Then, Toronto Maple Leafs prospect Garrett Sparks came out and said, no, it's not that the nets are too small, it's that players have to learn to score on more athletic goalies. We are now in a time where goalies are the most athletic they've ever been, most positionally sound they've ever been. Look back to 2003, look back to 2004. What were most of those goalies?
Marty Jerko.
They
Oh,
were like, well, they're
I
like
thought you
Marty
wanted
Turner.
me to name
No,
a goalie.
not name a goalie, but they were random. Look at the way Dominic Hasek played. Look at the way Martin Brodeur played. It wasn't about position. It was about how random can you be to make
And
the
the
save.
only reason they did, though, they had to be random was because they were out of position. So they had
Exactly.
to throw their bodies to make it looks like an amazing save. When a goalie makes an amazing save, apart from like the one-on-one glove where he just gloves it and shuts you down, most of the time they're out of position. And so
Exactly.
that's what makes those saves great, is because that wasn't supposed to be a save.
Exactly.
You're not doing your job.
But two, another thing, I was watching Hockey Night in Canada Saturday.
Yeah.
The reason Babcock has suggested bigger nets is because goalie equipment is also getting there's no restrictions on the goalies right now of how big their equipment can be.
Well,
They're
it's
there
relative
still.
to their size.
There is,
It's relative to
but
their size.
but the goalies are abusing it a little bit. Like actually, this is a perfect example. There was a play in the Philly Jets game where Mason made a save. It went pretty much off the top of his glove, in between his thumb and his index finger, and the announcer even said it went off the cheater of his glove. There's a piece on the glove called the cheater, which just makes your glove a little bit thicker around the outside. So if that piece is not there, if they crack down on regulations,
on Newberg's glove there?
that's a goal.
Mm-hmm.
The piece is called a cheater, and they said, well,
Oh, that leather on top, yeah.
they said, well, if you're allowed to have a piece called a cheater, shouldn't that?
Do you guys remember?
Shouldn't that be where you start to look at
Yeah.
the problem?
Do you guys remember
You
when
know?
you were younger? You would know because you've reffed games before. The cheater blade on goalie skates.
Oh, yeah.
I think they fully got rid of them now, but I remember they used to have the cheater blade where goalies who just started, there's a small tiny blade higher up on the toe of it, so when you went down in butterfly, you
Yeah.
can stand up and kick out quicker. I remember seeing
Yeah.
that and I couldn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
One concept too that Elliot Friedman has suggested is something they're throwing around is because the goalies wear a bigger jersey to fit over top of their equipment. The goalies wear a same size jersey as the players, and their equipment has to fit underneath.
See,
But
here's
then you're
the thing.
restricting the goalie's movement. I get it.
Maybe
I get it.
maybe it's a bit bigger than the players, but what he's saying is that they wear a smaller jersey than they do now. Your shoulder pads and that have to fit underneath.
I feel that I'm okay with decreasing the size of some of this equipment because it is kind of crazy and out of hand. I'm against goal size increase 100%. Biggest reason why I'm against them increasing the goal size. The biggest argument they're saying that Hockey Night in Canada had is, I think it was like 1,543 shots hit the post a year. I think it was more than that. It might have been 15,000 or something like that. Hit the post every year.
They actually had a stat on
Yeah.
it. They had a board in Hockey Night in Canada. They said scoring is here right now, but they did the number of shots that have hit the post this year. If those are goals, scoring is like it's the highest it's been in 20 years or something.
Yeah.
Well,
However, if they were to do that, let's say they increase the goal size, that would affect every single level of hockey, from NHL all the way down to 9-year-olds to 8-year-olds. Why? Because if you learn on a smaller net, then you go to a big net that fucks up your angles as a goalie, fucks up your angles as a shooter. So it needs to, every net in Canada, US,
I didn't even think
Europe,
about that.
everywhere needs to change. You know what? Let's say KHL or Europe doesn't adopt it. Well, then all of a sudden you have European players that have learned to play on a smaller net, goalies in Europe that have learned to play on a smaller net, come to the NHL where the net's bigger. Sure, it's not that big.
Their game won't translate.
Exactly, and it's going to be more of a learning curve and a harder transition for some of these European players. So I'm not for the goalie, for the actual net to increase. I'm for
The equipment change.
equipment changing. But I'm also in agreement with what Garrett Sparks had to say, in the fact that I think that players have to find ways to score on a goalie. But at the same time, I'm okay with low-scoring games, because how much more exciting is a 1-0 or a 2-1 or a 3-2 game where you know, or a 2-2 game where you know that next goal is going to be a goal. When is it going to happen? And that's super exciting. Versus that 9-8 Winnipeg-Philadelphia game. It became a joke by the end of it. Nobody wants to see a 9-8 game because it just becomes a laugh fest.
It loses the luster and the flash and shine that a 3-2, 3-1 game has.
It's been proven with the NFL that games that are defensive brawls that are, 10-7, 7-3, where the next score could be the score that wins it, 10-7 games. That resonates more with fans than the 56-49 games. Even though those are great games, it's nice to see good defense.
So Giants Saints from like
2 weeks ago, exactly.
Drew Brees had 7 touchdowns, Eli Manning had 6.
Yeah, where it's literally like at that point you're like, oh, I wonder who's going to score the touchdown now.
Exactly.
Like, because you know it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love defensive games way more than offensive games.
So I think it's more of, I understand what the NHL thinks that more goals means more excitement. I just think they should look at goal differential as the biggest thing that drives excitement. For me, that's my opinion. But we got to keep moving on this train. Last thoughts about goal size and goal differentials and that kind of stuff.
No, I agree. I don't like the bigger net idea, but I do like the goalie the restriction on equipment. I do like that.
I'm okay. I keep the goal size the same. I'm with the equipment as well. I think we're all on the same. I'm just going to go off with that vaguely off that Grant Fuhrer quote from way back in the day, where he's like, well, you better learn how to shoot for the post because that's all I'm giving you. So that's true. It's learn how to get better. That's it. Fair.
You got to learn how to put the goalie out of position. Yeah. And it's a tough thing to do. But
and if you're in the NHL and you can't do that, probably not going to be there for very long.
No, exactly. Okay, so yesterday, Hall of Fame inducted some new players into it. So the players were Chris Thorburn.
I knew it!
Bet your ass, Chris Thorburn! Yeah, doggy!
Okay, Cam, just recover for me, please.
Sergei Fedorov, Nicholas Lindstrom, Chris Pronger, Phil Housley, Angelo Ruggiero? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And correction, if he ever goes in the Hall of Fame, it's Chris Scorburn.
Yes.
Not Thorburn.
Oh, you're right.
Because his goal-scoring prowess is what's going to get him in there.
Bob McKenzie was also inducted.
Into the Writers' Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
Did you guys see the TSN special? On
yeah.
The Real Insider.
Yeah.
It was his wife.
Yeah. So it was his
Classic.
wife. And then they brought on, Todd McLennan, Mike Babcock, Berkey. It was a good little short. And that's what TSN's done now, is they've made these shorts all the time that are actually pretty funny.
TSN still has it.
They
telling you, Sportsnet. I'm telling you.
Well, I wasn't displeased with Saturday night, but I can't say I was extremely pleased. When they started talking about
you just learned to
big
accept
nets,
mediocre hockey coverage, that's why.
Well, yeah.
You're like, it's going to be bad, so I might as well just watch it. They're going to
We've
get 20
accepted
things
the
wrong.
love we think we deserve.
Just listen to Kelly Rudy talk about goal net size. I was like, you weren't a good goalie.
Or
Why
with
do you
Glenn
want this?
Healy, whenever he watches Carey Price, he's like, I reminds me of myself. You're like, really, Glenn? Really? He does it?
The worst part is
it does.
The Jets are like the 3rd or 4th down the totem pole, so we get like the B squad
we never get
announcers.
We never.
And like I was watching the game on Saturday, and they're like, Claude Giroux is probably the most underrated hockey player in the NHL. I'm like,
are you serious?
How are you? He's not underrated. He's a captain.
And they're like, oh, well, here's the stats for most points in the last 4 years, and Claude Giroux has the most points. That might be pretty surprising. Oh, I think he's so underrated. I'm like, you're a fucking moron. He's not underrated at all.
We all know he's good. Newsflash.
He's not underrated.
And the fact that you just said that he was good means he's no longer underrated.
Yeah.
The second that you say someone is a good player means he's no longer underrated.
Speaking of the Hall of Fame class, there's a lot of, or there's not a lot. There's 2 out of the 5 that got inducted are Red Wings. I actually found a fun Red Wings drinking game I saw over Twitter.
Let me guess. Take the 2002 Red Wings team and decide which ones are...
Walk into the Hockey Hall of Fame and every Red Wing you pass, take a drink.
No. Well, that's Jesus. There you go. Well, they both end in the same way. Step 1. Anytime you hear a fan or an announcer while watching a Detroit Red Wings game say underrated or class, take a drink. Step 2, alcohol poisoning. You're going to die. But, the Red Wings, they got Fedorov and Lindstrom. And can you do a check and tell me if Ovechkin has scored tonight in the game?
No, they lost 1-0.
Ah, damn it!
He had 15 shots
Because
on goal.
Ovi's tied with Fedorov right now for most goals by a Russian with 483, and I was hoping he'd score against the Wings tonight to kind of
that'd be
break
They
that.
lost 1-0.
Sergei Fedorov. A lot of people forget the fact that he was on Washington
For a year.
when
Or 2 years almost.
Ovechkin was just first starting in the league, and he actually Fedorov said that he really helped him make the transition to the league.
And Ovi didn't tell him when he was Ovi didn't tell Fedorov when he was growing up that Fedorov was his idol, and then he was I guess they came across on social media that there's pictures of Ovi when he's younger wearing Fedorov t-shirts and jerseys, and Fedorov's he didn't even mention anything, and then I don't know if I'd mention that either. I'd be so intimidated.
Be extremely intimidated.
Yeah.
Okay. So on the note of Hall of Fame, these are the players that recently retired that are eligible for next year's Hall of Fame.
And there's only 4 players that can get in, correct?
5 players.
Actually, I don't know if there's even a rule. They could probably let in a ton of people if they wanted to.
No, I think it's 4 or 5 a year.
Okay, let us.
I'm not sure, but there are more eligible players. But these are the players that are eligible for next year. That this is their first time getting in. I'll let you guys know this is from a Down Goes Brown article.
Oh God. Okay. Okay. Let us
now these are the actual people who they are. Oh, for fuck's sake!
God dang it.
Dang.
Okay.
Oh, just fun fact before you start this. Did you guys know Phil Housley came straight out of high school?
And playing the NHL.
Yeah.
Wow. Good for him.
That's crazy. He didn't even play junior. Played high school hockey, got drafted, played for a junior A team in the summer, and then came straight over and just played. Oh my God.
And became a Hall of Fame defenseman.
Hall of
Is he
Fame.
the first-
And he originally started as a forward and got switched
Is
over.
he the
and was
first Winnipeg
12.
Jet to make the Hall of Fame?
No. Dale
Yeah,
Howard.
Howard
Was Howard Chuck
Or
in there?
Hall.
Or Teppo
Oh, yeah. Stupid
If
question.
he's even in there, I
Stupid
don't know.
question.
Anders Nielsen, maybe.
I don't know if he's
No, I
he
don't
might be
know.
in
True
there.
Bobby Hall, yeah. That's...
I thought you were
I
about to say
think,
True, but I'm like, whoa.
I think we're leaving out the best goalie of all time. Bob
Nikolai
Senza.
Habibula? Oh, it sounds
The Boulin Wall?
Okay.
like
The Boozer Wall?
let us have this.
For their first year of eligibility, Jose Theodore, Jamie Lagenbrunner, however, he mentions, is the former star who once played for the Devils and is now very old. So we should probably get our votes in now before he inevitably signs with the Blues.
Okay.
Wade Redden. Mika
Is this
Kipperson.
list mediocre players?
No,
'Cause
this
I'm
is
not
the-
impressed by any of them.
This is the
Is he
list.
serious?
No, these are the guys that are. This is their first year eligible next year.
Oh, okay.
Right? So the list is whoever retired
okay.
on that year, right?
Mika, all right.
Wade Redden, Mika Kiprusoff, Alex Kovalev, Tony Lidman, Donald Brashear, Andy McDonald, not to get it confused with Andrew McDonald, Steve Sullivan, Vinny Prospel, Chris Simon, Roman Hammerlick, Marty Reisner, and then these two, I think both of them might get in eventually, Milan Hajduk and Eric Lindros.
Eric has been on that one for a while.
I can see, like...
I think he officially retired.
I can see,
okay.
maybe 3 of those guys
I could
being
see
Hall of Fame
Mika,
already.
maybe.
I don't think any of those guys
Is
that it's
Pablo
their first
Bure-
time. No, but Bure's already in. He got in last year.
I'm
Oh,
talking
okay.
We
about...
talked about this last year,
Sorry.
Ken.
honestly, I can see 3 or 4 of those guys getting in ever. I don't even think half those guys will even ever
No,
get in.
no, and that's not what it's about. It was just saying that these
Look
are
at
the
the
guys
guys
that
who are eligible compared to this year, where it's or the last couple years where it's we don't need a ballot. You're in already.
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah.
You're
so
fine.
there's obviously a group of other players that haven't been in yet. This next year is probably their year to get in.
Already saved
Like,
the league?
No,
you have
these.
to officially be retired for 2 years.
So these are
Now.
guys that just recently retired. That this is their first year that they're eligible to be voted in. So that's why the list
That's
sucks.
a weak ass list.
That's a
it
very
is a
weak list.
shitty list.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna name all stars, and I'm like,
No.
these guys are pretty average.
At best.
Yeah. I mean,
In that case, Andrew Ladd, get your Hall of Fame plaque ready.
buckle up.
Brian Little, get your Hall of Fame plaque ready.
Giroux, obviously.
Yeah. No, I just thought it was clever that's the first. Those are the guys that'll be their first year eligible. There's other guys. I think Mark Recchi hasn't been inducted yet. I think he'll have a spot there. I just think next year we'll see more guys that haven't had that opportunity yet finally get their opportunity to be in the Hall of Fame.
I like first ballot Hall of Famers. Those are the best.
Yeah, none of those guys will be first ballot Hall of Famers.
Maybe Mika, if that.
No, maybe Eric Lindros, if that.
That's not first ballot. I don't think.
No?
I'm pretty sure he's been floating around for a while.
Okay.
But I could be
I don't think he'll
terribly
be a
mistaken.
first ballot, but I think he'll get in.
Mika?
Lindros. Mika, I think.
Oh,
I
I'm
can
pretty
see-
sure that isn't Eric Lindros' first time, but
No.
maybe I'm mistaken.
I could see Milan Hajduk getting in his
Yes,
first
I
ballot.
could see
Yeah.
Milan. He's
Yeah.
He's had 2 cups,
yeah.
and he's been with Colorado
Oh
forever.
my
get in.
goodness, I forgot to mention this. Did Mikko Rantanen get sent back, or is he still with the team?
I think he's still with the team.
Great.
Why?
He wears 96.
Are you kidding me?
Why?
Oh!
The 9 theory! It's
nine
never
theory!
going away! It's alive and well! Oh my god! When I saw, I was watching
Okay,
highlights the
before
other
you
day.
continue,
Go ahead.
to give context to new listeners who weren't with us last year, Dan was absent for a couple podcasts. So what did Cam and I decide to do? Like any other podcast where Cam and Greg are alone, we decided to take this podcast down a rabbit hole. What was that rabbit hole? That everybody that plays for the Colorado Avalanche that is any good wears the number 9. Really? You don't believe me? Matt Duchene, Nathan McKinnon, used to be Ryan O'Reilly, Gabriel Landeskog,
Joe Sakic.
Joe Sakic, the guy they just freaking drafted 2 years ago, Connor Bleakley, wore 9 for the Red Deer
He
Rebels.
still does.
Mikko Rantanen, now 96.
Yeah.
There was, we went
You
down.
go back and even their 9 drafts are ridiculous. They're
the 09 draft was stupid.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about
yeah. Let's stop. Oh god, that rabbit hole. It's gonna follow us to hell. We're going to hell with that thing.
I was one of the...
Yeah.
Okay, continue, please.
Wait, what were we talking about? Colorado?
That was Colorado, Mikko Rantanen.
Oh, okay. Well, since they're going to be an outdoor game anyways, I'll talk about this. Did you see
Those
Montreal
jerseys are
and
nice,
Boston jerseys?
Yes.
Those
Montreal's
Montreal jerseys are sweet.
are nice.
They're
Oh.
white and nice.
They're actually nice. I would not mind picking up a... I'm never going to actually pick up a Montreal jersey. Actually,
Who on Montreal would you get a jersey of? No one, exactly.
Carey Price.
Brendan Gallagher.
Yeah, or Gallagher.
Unbelievable. I love Brendan. Dan doesn't like Brendan Gallagher.
The only other...
Buffalo should line him up again.
Again.
I've really started to enjoy the Colorado Avalanche jerseys for
The alternates.
I don't hate
beautiful.
them.
Beautiful.
Those are
hate them.
those are
Yeah.
nice jerseys. Okay.
Patrick Kane will not face charges at all. All
No.
charges dropped.
All charges.
So, very impressive.
Ooh, the white and blue, eh?
Yeah, they're not bad.
I like those.
Did you guys hear about Jordan Tutu and Alex Burrows?
No.
Well, Alex Burrows, apparently he was in the box for 20 seconds with Jordan Tutu, and apparently he said something towards his family and Jordan
In
Tutu
the box.
in the box, and then after
Like across, right?
Oh, like across.
yeah,
Okay,
across, yeah. And then after Jordan Tutu tried going after him in a break, and then Derek Dorsett stepped in, and they asked him what was that about? And he said, he said something that was just despicable. The guy's basically garbage. And this Burrows has had a history of saying some very questionable things to players. And I don't know who quoted this, but a couple years ago when media came to prominence and whatnot, people were saying, or one of the players were quoted as saying, "Wives are okay, kids and dogs aren't okay." And Jordan Tutu just recently announced that he's going to be having a kid. So maybe Burrows said something about him. And also most people know that Jordan Tutu with his brother and with his battle with alcoholism and whatnot.
Yeah, so that's...
Sure, Tutu is not the nicest spoken man
I
on the
know,
ice
but
either,
Alex Burrows has proven that he's said some nice things
I
before.
can
He's
guarantee
been
you
in people's
every guy
favorites.
said something in their career that they wish they probably did. But
Yeah.
I
But
totally know what
Burrows
you
does
mean.
it consistently.
No, yeah.
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 But anyways, if you didn't hear about it, don't worry about it.
There we go. No, that's
Dan,
interesting.
did you hear about the Flint Firebird situation?
No.
Philomen.
If they're not the Flint, Michigan Tropics, I don't care.
Okay.
They're
Their
the
jerseys
Flint-
are sweet, though.
They're the Flint Firebirds.
Are they going to play in the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl?
I wish. However, what they did do on Sunday night, I believe, it was Sunday night?
Yes. Yeah.
Sunday night, they came back to beat the OHL champs, the CHL champ, and the Memorial Cup champions, Oshawa Generals in overtime.
They did.
5-4. And what happens? How does the GM celebrate the Flint Firebirds, who are not off to a very good start? How does he
Average start at best.
How does he reward the team? By firing the coach. Why?
All of the coaches. not
All of
just
the coaches.
The coach. All of the coaches.
And why would he do that?
Because Jackie Moon was available?
Yes.
No.
Correct.
Damn it.
Because the owner's son didn't get enough playing time in that game. Even though his team won, his son didn't get enough playing time.
And hasn't been getting enough playing time, according in his eyes.
In his eyes. So, fires all the coaches. What do the players do? How do they respond? Click to find out.
Yeah, click to find out. You'll never guess what happens next. What happened was they went up to the offices one by one and quit and said to managers, we're done. And unless you hire those coaches back, we're not coming back. Every player walked. That includes the owner's son. What's his name? Hacken Rolf, because the owner is Rolf, or Hacken Nielsen, owner Rolf Nielsen. Even the guy who apparently wasn't getting enough ice time in his dad's eyes quit to his dad. Quit his own dad's team.
Said, fuck this. So I assume they did a sort of Rudy-esque lay the jerseys down and say, I will not play unless you do this.
Yeah, probably.
And very, very incredible story that came out and then that all happened. And then Monday, the coaches got reinstated fully. I'm sure that that's going to be a very interesting relationship
The
as it goes on.
the CHL has to step in to avoid this happening again. In terms of, I don't think if you're a relative on the team has something to do with management or coaching or ownership, you should not be able to. You can't pick your own bloodline. That's
No.
You can't have that.
There's too many problems.
There's too many intangibles that you can't stuff like this. This could have been all avoided if his son wasn't on the team, but his son was on the team. So
yeah, no, that's definitely a huge issue, and it could have been so easily avoided. The other thing too is, part of me believes that this could have been part of a media stunt that Jackie Moon was behind, because now everyone wants to watch the Flint Firebirds.
yeah, and they want to go
He's
to
moved
Flint,
from
Michigan Mega Bowl.
He's moved from the NBA to the CHL. He's really big time. But no, really, everyone's talking about the Flint Firebirds because
It was
of this.
all over Twitter on Sunday, Monday, everywhere.
Flint, Michigan.
Flint, Michigan.
However, if you really wanted to do anything, if you're Flint for any sort of marketing, all you have to do is bring Will Ferrell to one game dressed up as Jackie Moon, and you'll sell all the tickets.
Oh yeah, of course. There's
All
a
the
few
tickets.
teams. I didn't realize until
And name it
last
the
year.
Flint Mega Bowl.
And play this song.
We're all jamming, dancing over here. I know you guys probably didn't see this. It came across my Twitter feed somehow. Maine in the NCAA, I forget who they were playing, but the game was getting kind of out of hand. There was already 3 players for Maine in the box. There was a scrum, and the goalie got involved. The refs put the goalie in the box.
Yes, I saw
he
that.
had
That
to
is
serve his
hilarious.
time.
That is so funny.
They had to do it. There was 4-on-4, and the goalie had to serve his time in the box. That's so awesome. My goodness. You know what else is interesting or somewhat fun?
Go ahead.
Only original 6 teams, and maybe even only Detroit can say this. Henrik Zetterberg scored his 300th goal on Jonathan Bernier? Was it Bernier or Reimer? The one where it floated.
Oh, Zetterberg? That was Reimer.
Oh my God. Anyways.
No, if you want a milestone, it's always against Toronto.
Yeah. Zetterberg scored his 300th goal, and he already had 500 assists. He hit that last week. He's the 5th Detroit Red Wing to score 300 goals and have 500 assists. The 5th one! Holy shit! I don't even think the Jets have, even in their history. And I don't know how many points Kovalchuk has, but god damn. 800. 5 guys have over 800 points? Shit! Damn it! What the fuck?
I want one! I want
Give me
one!
one guy! One, not 5.
But here's the other thing, too. If you look, I think from the 70s to the 90s, Detroit had nothing. So good on Detroit having 25 straight years of good. They had nothing.
But then when they do get good, they just get really good average. Or above average. Great, I would call them great players where you're getting year in and year out with Zetterberg, with Datsuk, with Stevie Y. You knew what you were getting. Even when he went from a perennial superstar goal scorer to a 2-way, he still put up 90 points. You're like, what the fuck? You're supposed to know how to play defense? And he's like, I can play D. I was take a fucking score too. Nothing's wrong with that. And you're like, no, yeah, don't stop it, Stevie. I'm just saying. My God.
Update from Minnesota.
Yeah. I just saw
7 minutes left in the third. Minnesota leads 5-3.
Ooh, who got the goals for Jets?
Wheeler and Little.
Wheeler and Little.
So Little with 2 today now.
Wheeler's still staying in the top 5 then?
Little's got 3 points. Wheeler's got 2 points. So Wheeler will be up to 19 points. So that puts him, probably top 3 or 4.
That's on pace for
90 some odd points.
Wow. In his career, has 65?
69?
69.
Okay. As we were talking about high-scoring games, Nashville and Ottawa in the midst
Midst?
of
In the mincemeat of
of a 7-5 showdown.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of, let's
Nashville?
make those nets bigger, folks. Let's do it.
And guess
if
who is
Nashville can score 7, you don't need to make the nets bigger.
guess who's on the verge of scoring a hat trick for Ottawa? He needs one more goal.
You're staring at me funny, so it's obviously not like a superstar.
It's not a superstar.
DJ Spinbad?
No.
Ah.
Zach Smith.
Oh!
Yeah.
What?
He had 2 goals in the first period.
Zach Smith. Yeah, baby. Maybe Vanek will get the hattie too. I mean, hey, the game's almost on, so.
He might. Maybe Little will get it.
Did John Carlson get any more points? Because he surpassed 200 points in his career.
John Carl?
John Carlson for Washington.
Oh, cool. Good for him.
Yeah. This is a weird one. I didn't know he's been in the league this long or this consistently. Alex Pietrangelo and Dmitry Kulikov both hit 400 games played.
Wow.
Dmitry Kulikov.
And 500 for Andrei Sekera.
He's only at 500?
He's old. He started late. I think
Yeah,
he came
but-
over and he was like 24 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
That's late. That's
Malkin
like us
hit
starting the NHL now.
So I was going to say, Tyler Myers just played his 500th game, and he's, 24?
But Myers came right
But
when
he
he was
came
like
young.
19
That's
or something.
true.
Malkin had 600 games played. And other than that, I just have injuries. Like Paredes has a sprained MCL, so he's week to week. Andre Palat has a lower body injury. Everyone's favorite. They're like, what can
Good
it be? He's like
LBI.
lower body. 3 to 5 weeks. Other than that, you have who's in the? Oh, go ahead.
No.
Who's in the election as of to this evening?
Other than Donald Trump getting roasted by people
SNL.
on SNL.
But he openly joined. Like they knew that was going to happen, and that's the only good. Any publicity is good publicity. I think when you're Donald Trump, because he's insane, and the things that he says is so controversial. You're like, why would? Can you stop that, Donald? Enough, Jesus.
Okay. So, Colorado, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, and Columbus.
So Philly scraped their way out of there. No, they weren't in it.
Who's bottom 5?
Philly.
Anaheim got out of there.
Colorado, Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, Columbus. 3 Canadian teams.
Fucking Edmonton.
Yep. Oh, don't worry. They're gonna get whoever's number 3 is this year. Kachuk or whatever.
No, they're going 1 or nothing. You know that.
Well, they'll probably get Austin Matthews and have Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid.
and Taylor Hall, and Nugent Hopkins,
Fuck.
and Eberle.
And
You get the first pick, and you get the first. Everybody gets the first pick.
And guess what?
Like
No, it's just Edmonton gets the first
Yeah,
pick.
Guess
yeah,
what? They still
Only
won't
Edmonton.
They still won't make the playoffs.
They
Well,
still won't
obviously-
draft a defenseman or pick one up. Or get a like, I don't think Talbot's been that bad, but
Is
still.
this
they
the
don't
year
have it.
they make a trade for a defenseman for their team?
They need to trade for
If
something.
McDavid comes back, yes.
Well, obviously he's going to be back
But
eventually.
he's gone for like 3 months.
3 to 4
Well,
months.
fine. You bite the
Is
bullet.
he out
and
of
do
the
it.
Calder race? Is he done?
Yes.
Is he toast?
100%.
Oh,
That's tough.
gotta.
You gotta
think. You gotta think so.
You gotta think so.
Unless he comes back and he salvages his point per game
There's
average.
so many good rookies this year, though.
Artemi Panarin from Chicago.
Domi and Duclair in Arizona,
Panarin.
Larkin in Detroit, Ehlers in Winnipeg. He's right up there.
I don't know who this Ehlers kid is. Doesn't sound
Who's
familiar.
Colton Parayko for St. Louis? He's having a damn good year. He's
The first time
defenseman.
I've heard of this kid.
He's a rookie defenseman.
Oh, Perico or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
He's
guy
having
who
a
like
pretty good
caught
year.
Wheeler.
He's huge.
Wheeler's just like giving her and like with ease. He just comes in and stickless.
He's
I'm
huge.
oh,
He's like
goodness, who's this
6.
kid?
He's almost as tall as Tyler Myers, I think.
I'm sorry. With Colorado being in the election, I have to check if there's anybody that wears number 9.
Austin Matthews was 34.
That doesn't equal 9.
I have an interesting stat. if you
No,
guys-
but he wears 34. 3 plus 4 is 7. If he gets drafted second overall by Colorado.
Okay, well that's not stretching it at all.
Okay,
It's
go
not.
find if any
No,
of the
it's fine.
kids.
It's fine.
Wait.
What?
Google Jacob Chitrin. He might wear 9. I'm not certain on this though.
Interesting fact, if you guys want to know.
You go.
Alex Ovechkin had 15 shots on goal in the game tonight against Detroit. So most shots on goal by a player in a game without scoring since 1967-68.
And who is that player?
Doesn't say.
It's probably a Red Wing. They have every Red Wing.
Probably.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Jacob Chitrin only wears number 5.
And ironically, guess who the game again tonight was against?
Red Wings. Yeah, right. I was hoping.
That's right.
He was trigger happy today. He really... A lot of his shots were low percentage because I watched the first period. It was pretty bad. Like, he was just ripping them on there. He probably had 4 in the first alone. Like, and most of them were from, like, just over the blue. He just wanted that goal so bad.
So they aren't really quality scoring chances.
No. Well, when you take 15 and none of them go in, I'm certain not all of them are from a foot.
There's some floaters.
You're just tossing it on net at that point. Just, please hit the goalie. Yeah, it's a shot on it. Oh, no.
Where's he going?
He's leaving because he found another 9. Here we go. Who is it?
Guess what number Austin Matthews wears for Team USA?
Number 9.
Oh, piss. Really?
Number 19.
Oh! You got
Well, Colorado, I hope you enjoy Austin Matthews. Because that's the way it's gonna be.
All right, we're trailing off here. You guys got any closing words?
Thank you guys for listening to another week, making the last 66 episodes so awesome. If you could, leave a comment on YouTube, rate us on iTunes or any podcast app that you use. Email us at lastmaninpc@gmail.com. Tweet at us at lastmaninpc. And I think that's it.
That is all I got. Dan, closing words?
Good enough.
Oh, Austin Matthews. He's born in the 9th month of the year.
No! No! Ah, it's inevitable.
Wait. Oh, no, never mind.
We're good? Are we leaving?
I just want to point one last thing out. In 2 years, it's going to be Colorado's draft year because it's 1999 birth years.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. In 2 years draft?
Yeah.
So
It's
not
97
not
this year.
this year, next year.
No, this year's 97.
98.
Next year's 98.
Oh, okay, because there's a player, Nolan Patrick, who's probably going to go real high for...
Next year.
For Brandon.
From Brandon.
I almost said Boston.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
See you later, guys.